Hey guys. All right, so I'm going to talk about the film Happiness, which came out in 1998. This is literally the most intimidating film of all time to talk about. Seriously. Let's just say this is rated NC-17, and let's just say you hardly see anything bad happen in this film, but it implies everything bad you can possibly imagine. I'm serious. Every single of the worst things ever. There's such a uniquely godless outlook living in this film that I cannot even recommend this film to anybody, really, like, unless you're just morbidly curious to go so far into dark seediness that you will be scarred for life. That's what this film did. And I believe why this film is so interesting, ultimately an entertaining, fascinating film for me, is because it makes me think. It's probably what was going through a lot of like creatives' heads to get to the dark places. Like they're scared of this stuff that's explored right here, to almost just go through it. Like again, I would call this like suburbia and hell. I mean, albums like OK Computer were onto this theme. A lot of films were onto this theme too. Just like kind of, and I think I prefer ultimately the minimalist end. So this is not one of my all-time favorite films, but I do think about this film a lot because that impact is so scarring. It's actually, I would say, worse than Requiem for a Dream, because this is literally a picture of hell, and literally every single character is in such a bad fate that I just don't want to get. Yeah, I want to get as far away from this movie as possible because it's too honest, and it's literally the worst of what people do around you that goes unspoken often. Literally, a lot of anxious people, I think, are really sensitive to this. The band Modest Mouse really kind of, this is literally the lead singer Modest Mouse. This is Isaac Brock. This is his all-time favorite film. I think that then, yeah, because anxiety comes from being terrified of a lot of the things that happen here. But it's also a dark comedy too. It's literally like the most depressingly dark film in the guise of a comedy, literally. And I would say the way this came out in 1998, this is very similar to what I think Clockwork Orange did in the 70s, where it's just like shaked up the world with something so awful but so fascinating that you just kind of have to take it in. And it kind of made me walk out. Honestly, I've kind of felt this repulsive instinct of like knowing that this is inside all this, but also a condescending nature of like, thank God it's not this. This felt like it actually did something for me as far as like it kind of made me just want to call some people I care about. It's like, thank God it's not this. Anything you're feeling here, this is the ultimate cannot live like this like kind of film. There's a good, a healthy amount of social commentary behind that. And that's kind of what I think needs to be kind of socially expressed. And I finally, I always watched this. I watched this for the first time when I was like 19. It scared me so bad. It's right around when I was just making a lot of friends in the college days, basically. um, because this is just like literally the worst fate that a man can have. It's just everything that happens here, and and I'm not even going to talk about what they do. I'll just say it shows it in a way where you almost have to feel the ultimate humanism for the worst kind of things possible. And I'm talking everything bad you can possibly think of that's out there, really. I would say it's directors like Stanley Kubrick and David Lynch or Paul Thomas Anderson are all more subtle about this. The same kind of themes. They get the same thing across in a more universal sense. But this is a film you can't even talk about it because it's so harshly dark, And I can only stomach this once every few months. I only watched this recently because a friend, I wanted to share this with a friend, and we kind of, I think, comforted me a lot to just be able to share this viewing. Because I think I watched this alone, and I think it was just too much. I never talked about what was explored. I think I always needed to kind of relax about my feelings of love, because this stuff just is so harrowingly dark, and everything that's just depressing. It's just crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. This is the ultimate shock film, and it takes you through everything crazy, basically, that really happens, and it's such a down to earth kind of exploration. It's just everything, and obviously, like everything that's not joyful and not the right way to live life. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. This is the only film I've ever seen where I literally couldn't eat. I actually picked up dinner and I couldn't even eat until this film ended because it was getting me so bad. I had to like think on this for a while. Makes your hormones inactive, basically, because it makes you just think in terms of disciplinary. Because it's just like, well, anything but that. That's sort of what it feels like. But it also kind of makes you like, again, it's almost like you're laughing at things you should laugh at. Then it kind of gets you in the end because it's like, well, you're kind of getting a confidence boost because you're just kind of witnessing the extreme torture of other people. And it's just really, really wise the way this film comes off. I don't want to like this film. Sometimes I'm tempted to just hate this film. It's just like, that's why I can't recommend this one. I just want to talk. This is the most challenging film of all time, I think. So it's like something this hilarious and this horrible. It's not really that funny, but somehow it does need to come in the guise of a comedy in a weird kind of way. This wouldn't work any other way. It's like there's no other way this could be entertaining. Like, it just feels like there's just something overwhelmingly dry about it. This is like everything that I think a lot of art in the '90s, particularly, was scared of. just, and that's the thing. I just couldn't imagine going to these depths and making this kind of film. I see how David Lynch does it with like Blue Velvet, for example. That's why I also that's like the a more optimistic shit because there's literal light and dark in that film. This one is so godless. I've never seen a film with a harsher presence of no god. Like it's up there. The only other films that hit me on this exact level would be Come and See and Requiem for a Dream. And I'm like, but this is like kind of a similar, very extremely similar kind of feeling, particularly Requiem for a Dream, but not like in that, but it ultimately ends up disturbing in the same kind of harsh kind of way. Like, yeah, this is what's out there. I mean, God, like, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is horrifying too. He's just the ultimate loner, and that's why this film is so scary because it kind of makes you relate to it a little bit before the worst things happen. So it's like, okay, I can a little everyman, you can see yourself into it. Then ultimately you want to run to the hills, but I don't know. It just makes you look at yourself like nothing else. It makes me ultimately like, yeah, I'd rather shoot my head than get anywhere like this stuff. Any of the characters. And that's why. But at the same time, it's like I can't say this is a perfect film because I think other films are, Stanley Kubrick, Paul Thomas Anderson, and David Lynch are all better at doing this kind of thing or way more subtle. Throughout their filmography in spades. Not all of it, in spades they kind of touch on stuff that's dark. And it feels a little dated to like the late 90s. This is a wildly late 90s. I feel like this needed to happen in the late 90s, but now it's dated next to how directors like Paul Thomas Anderson have done it. Like Eyes Wide Shut for that matter. But gosh. Be warned. This is literally NC-17 for a reason. Let's just say you don't even see the worst stuff happen, but everything around it is enough to make this. Let's just say that's how dark this film is. It's a unique amount of dark. If you're just morbidly curious, like that's how kind of what led me to this in the first place. Just morbid curiosity. Literally felt like how McLaughlin Blue Velvet just went way too far into something. And I couldn't stop thinking about how harrowing all this stuff. Looking at the contrast of just no love in this film whatsoever. This is purely like a hell on earth, as suburban hell, is often reflected to me. But I think most art came around a little better because it's like cleaned up how just freaking harsh this is. But this film was perfect at what it's doing. I mean, this is everything it could be. Like but I think the tone itself is just. It's too freaking loud, but it is necessary, I think, if you're that kind of dark, tormented mind in the first place. Sometimes you don't know why, though, but it's like, oh, this kind of almost lays it out in a way. It's like, okay, I'm calling my loved ones, and thank God for it not being like this. It just feels too realistic. That's why. It feels like literally like a realistic depiction of a hell on earth that a person can go through if they're not very careful, not wise and thoughtful about all this. So I can't recommend this film, hardly anyone, but I'll say just check it out if you want to just see something that's darker than the, I think, furthest dark rainbow you can possibly imagine. Yeah.